Why, hello, everybody, and thank you so much for joining us this week as me and Tech-lax owner Owen Paul get to talk a little bit about some lacrosse. And it was an end to, you guys had a pretty good run up there in Calgary, but unfortunately, Vegas kind of put the kibosh on it. And I don't feel too bad for you because they just did that to my Firewolves last week.
Yeah, no, for a first game against Vegas, I was not expecting to get beat like that from an expansion team. I'm not gonna lie, Greg.
Yeah, Vegas is very underrated. They struggled at the beginning of the year, but then they kind of got their defense figured out and their transition. Wow, that Wagner, I tell you, watching that guy, he is amazing. And Kells, I think, has really starting to come into his own. So something I learned during the game, and we talked about it a little bit beforehand, was the fact that Kells played under Del Bianco.
Yeah, so he actually played for Calgary as Delv's backup until the expansion draft happened this past offseason.
Yeah, and when you were listening to the coach, he said, he's like, we didn't want to get rid of him. It's just you can't hold on to everybody, and you see why they didn't want to get rid of him because wow, Kells is really starting to come into his own. They didn't start him originally. They started the Joel Watson the first game, and then they kind of went back and forth. But Kells has definitely earned that spot.
Yeah, yeah, no, Kells. Who knew that he'd be ready for a number one job
Yeah.
like that?
Oh yeah, and watching that game though, I mean they pulled Del Bianco, but I still think he played great. I don't think there was really very many of those goals, if any, that you could really point at and be like, "Oh, come on, Delbs."
Yeah, no, and consider as well, Tyler Pace was out of our lineup with an injury, so
And he was very badly missed. I will let you get through the stats here, but yeah, that was one of my biggest things taken away was the offense. You guys still the transition was there, but I mean Simpson had the first hat, he had a hat trick, the first three goals. You can't always rely on those transition guys in Del Bianco to get the ball up there all the time.
no, and the thing was is they did the Vegas did the homework and you could tell they knew they had to shut us down during transition.
Yeah, we're going to watch some of the highlights after you get through your stats, and I point that out. I actually put a little thing over the top of the defense at one point because that was huge. Vegas was off the floor immediately, and
Yeah.
three defenders were back every time almost. And you see Simpson, you still couldn't stop him even with all that because he's so good, and Courier's so good, and Del Bianco, but they really limited him. And actually, the commentators even said at one point, he's itching for that long ball, and you really could see it.
Yeah, exactly. He was definitely looking for an opening to do his pin to point passes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so now I guess I'll get into the stats here. So after the first quarter, it was 6-1 for Vegas. Calgary's only goal was scored by Shane Simpson of the quarter. And for Vegas, we have Marshall King, which is Jesse King's younger brother, with the first goal of the game. And to round out the other five, we have Jay Hanna, who got two, Jay Ranger with one, and Ziegler with two.
Yeah, and King, wow, did he look good. I mean, he only ended up with that one goal, I believe, but he had a couple other chances, and he's a young man, and I tell you, I don't think he's going to be too far behind his brother. And how many brother combos were out there? Wasn't there what, three or four?
Yeah, I think that's what the announcer said at one point, if I
I've got it
remember
all clipped into
correctly.
the highlights. I'll let you get through your stats, and then when we go.
But yeah, the Cornwall brothers were actually both out with injuries, so they didn't play. But there was a few sets of brothers on both those teams combined.
Yeah, yeah, and really though, I mean, you saw the second quarter, not even really the second half, but the second quarter was really good. That looked like Calgary. That's the Calgary you used to
Yeah,
seeing.
yeah, totally. It was tied after the second quarter, with Calgary getting 2 goals for Simpson, 2 goals for Jesse King. Uh, sorry, for Josh Curry, not Jesse King did get one though.
Yes, he did.
That was my bad. Josh Courier got two, and T Cook and Jesse King got one each.
Yeah, and like when you just look at the box score there, you see it's, all Vegas with the exception of, one goal Simpson's able to get, and then you see the exact, opposite in the second quarter where it's all Roughnecks and then Phillips gets on the board with one, and it was a really really good goal, but I mean Hannah, wow, did Hannah look good.
Yeah, no, like he looked amazing. I haven't seen someone play like Hannah in a long time, I find.
Yeah.
And then we get into the third quarter, which ended a little bit more lenient into Vegas's favor with 9-7. Calgary had no goals. For Vegas, we had Fear on the power play and Jay Wagner again.
Yeah, that Firth, he's a real grinder player, but he's also got some soft hands. I became a fan of his down in Albany watching him play. He is into it.
Yeah, no, Vegas has a good young team. What can I say?
But I mean, and that's the thing is you still see though, like that third quarter was not good for Calgary, but it really wasn't bad. If you can hold an NLL team to 2 goals, you did a good job. The problem, I just, their offense just Josh Courier seemed to be the only one. I mean, King played good, but he had a
Yeah,
couple misses. They had a lot of pipes.
yeah, no. And then we get into the fourth quarter where Josh scored again, and Jesse King scored again. And then Vegas, we had Phillips and Heller.
Yeah. That Hellier, he's a not a very big guy, but he is a tenacious little bugger. And that was a very hard hitting game.
Yeah, no, it was a tough loss at the final score being 11-9. But
Yeah.
if you look at that second quarter or at the half, Calgary was the team trying to come back and be like, "Okay, we got to take these guys seriously."
Yeah. No, and like I said, if you look at just that second quarter, they dominated the second quarter. But
Yeah,
I mean, in the third quarter, it's still not a bad performance to hold an NLL team to 2 goals defensively. But you got to
yeah,
get somebody on to get a goose egg with. I mean, and Cook's been on fire with the hot stick. Josh Courier was, looking pretty good out there. King had a couple, but it just, yeah, I don't know. Pace was sorely missed.
yeah. No, and I think I heard Mouse say it in another interview where they were only running. They're used to running four guys out the back, and with pace out, it was three.
Yeah, so not having pace plus Cornwall didn't play.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a huge thing. And now your fun facts are the top stuff. I'm sorry, I jumped ahead a little bit.
Yeah, so top stuff of the game was top goal getters were Tanner Cook, Cookie again, my man, for Calgary with 3 goals. And Vegas, we had John Phillips with 2.
Yeah, and that's pretty impressive. So they were able. I mean, they really spread their offense out, and they able to. You see their leading goal scorer with 2 goals, but they were still able to win the game.
Yeah, no, totally. Top goals, the top assists of the night go to Dan Taylor for Calgary with 3 assists. And for Vegas, we have Charlie Bernard with four
Bert
assists of the night.
Bertrand, and he actually
Bertrand. Oh, so
he
good.
is from by the Utica Yeti team I run. The guy
Yeah.
out there knows him. Got to meet some of the family from there, so he's a 315 guy, not too far from us. Yeah, that he didn't have. I don't think he ended up getting any goals. We'll find out in a little bit when we look at the stats. But he played like he great at dishing the ball out, getting the loose balls, the rebounds, the offensive rebounds was something I was surprised that they were able to get as many as they were and as many rotating possessions. Usually that's something Calgary's really good about is cleaning the trash out, and they you could see they were a little short in the back end and kind of a little tired.
Yeah, no, it was definitely a close one for sure. So with a total of 12 loose balls, we have the Calgary champ, my buddy Zach Curry again, no surprise there. And for Vegas, we had Tor Reinhold with 12 of the night as well.
And Reinhold is one of the brothers as well, and so is Zach. And actually, I heard a really good stat on the game that Zach had 25 forced or caused turnovers. He is an
Yeah,
absolute animal out there.
yeah, no, he is definitely up there. I think, if I remember correctly, the NL was putting him up for like MVP player of the year.
Yeah, no, they definitely could be. He's definitely got to be in the top, and especially when you look at how him and Simpson play and
Yeah,
the that whole offense, the way they run, they force teams to get off the floor, and it gives. I think that's a big part of the reason they win so many of those rebound possessions. Is teams are so worried about
yeah,
getting back fast. You know.
yeah. No, and that's what it comes down to when you want to go shut down Calgary is you got to shut down the transition game.
Yeah, it's a must. And Del Bianco, they actually I hear them talking about it on the announcer now with the 16 assist. I think we're getting some traction. I'd like to think that's all on you pointing out how awesome he is with the assist.
Yeah, so Calgary had 41 shots on Kells in total, and Vegas had 47 shots on Delps.
And I think they had 6 shots on your backup too. So yeah, I mean you
Yeah,
could see Vegas was shooting, and they were a lot of good shots. So I mean the Vegas offense, they really moved that ball well. A lot of side to side movement. I have got a ton of highlight saves I actually clipped of Del Bianco. I was yeah, really surprised to see him come out. And then when you heard Moloski talk about it, when he said he's like, it wasn't really like, no, you're coming out. It was, hey, we need to take a second, gather our
yeah,
thoughts, and kind of go from there.
yeah. No, and Delbs was,
Not happy.
yeah, no. You could tell that there was a clip during the game right before they cut commercials where you could see Delb's face, and I'm like, okay, he does not get mad very often. He is getting irritated for sure.
Yeah, getting irritated, and he was actually at one point you even seen him squawking at the official, which is not something
Yeah,
he ever does. And they, yeah,
no.
he did not have a good night. But now let's get on to my favorite part of this, the fun facts.
Okay, Calgary had the most penalty minutes of the game with 8 minutes total for the team. So a few fights and a few penalties were taken.
Yeah, a very physical game, and actually though, I mean the 8 minutes wasn't. It could have almost been more with I mean there was a lot of stuff that those refs let those guys play. It was a very physical for the score being what it was, and especially if you were to tell everybody that in the third quarter you're only going to get 2 goals, most people's not going to think that's very entertaining. But those goalies
Yeah.
played really well, and the amount of physicality between those teams, they were just beating each other up.
Yeah, no, I think what was it at one point I remember seeing that Jesse King was like pinned against the boards with two of the Vegas guys.
Yeah, and then at one point there's 4 guys that crash onto him, and Jesse's
Yeah,
all by himself.
yeah, exactly. And then Calgary is now ended their winning streak for now, but looking at the standings, we do manage to hold on to our number 2 spot behind San Diego.
So
So Calgary is now 7-4, which I can live with.
7-4 is definitely better. They didn't start the best. They have gotten hot. That was a great game. I don't think you can really be too disappointed with the way it worked out. I mean, it could have been worse, but the and the next games for these two teams are
Calgary has a bye week this week with the next game on March 10th in Colorado. And Vegas plays San Diego in the first ever box stadium showdown at 2:30 Mountain Time.
yeah, that's going to be an awesome game. I'm
That is going to be so good.
yeah, pretty excited for that. And Calgary, though, I mean, Colorado came back and ended up beating Panther City the second week. Colorado's looking a lot, you know, is it's going to be a huge game for the West because it's either Colorado has to turn their season around and start making their way back up the standings, or is Calgary going to establish the fact that they belong to be the number 2 place team in the West?
Yeah, no. And I'm also really excited to see this game between Vegas and San Diego because not only is it outside, but Vegas is sitting in the bottom 2 right now. And if they win this game, they'll they'll manage to win up against the top 2 teams in the West.
Yeah, which is huge. And I mean, you want to talk
Yeah,
about confidence for a new team. We talked about how Panther City kind of did this last year. They started off a little slow, and then by the end of the year, Vegas could do it and look even better in doing it because they really are, they like you said, they beat the 2 top teams in the West. The two top teams in the West comfortably,
Yeah,
though. I mean, Saskatchewan's been pretty far up there, but like when you look at San Diego's record, they've only lost to
two
Calgary, who's number
game.
two, and
Yeah,
now Panther City. Or I'm sorry,
yeah.
not Panther City, but Vegas.
Well, no, that's the game this week. Did they play Vegas already?
Or no, who
Greg?
was? I'm sorry, who was San Diego's other loss to?
I think it was Sass actually.
It was Sass. All right, I'm all screwed
Yeah.
up. Never mind. Disregard everything else I said. So it was Saskatchewan. That's right. But
Yeah,
in the top there, and you see Colorado able to beat Panther City, even though in the standings they've still got Panther City up above. Vegas is really starting to come around. I think the big thing you're going to see with Vegas is you're going to see that goals against really catch up with Calgary and like Saskatchewan down to the bottom there. Their defense and watching Kel's play, if he continues to play like that, that's gonna be it's gonna be hard to stop him.
yeah. No, if like you said, if Kells keeps playing like that for Vegas, they they're gonna climb up even higher in the standings and make a playoff run. I feel like.
Yeah, absolutely. All right,
Yeah.
so without further ado, let's start watching some highlights in the background here.
Uh,
Yeah, I mean, oh, I had the volume on him for a second, but yeah. So right off the bat, I got to shrink you down a little bit here so we don't completely block out what we're talking about. I made sure I put the Tech-lax in here. But that's what I'm talking about, just the physicality of this game. These guys were
yeah,
going at it.
yeah. No, like everyone was tick for tack body pretty much.
Oh yeah, nonstop. And then, I mean, when you watch Jack Canna, he gets wide open and he's making the defense at Calgary, which is usually a strong point of Calgary there, and they did not look like it against the way he maneuvered. And a few times tonight, you really saw there was guys open out front, getting the rebounds. I mean, yeah, just a swim move, boom.
Boom. Yeah, I'm watching. Yeah, Delves just came.
See, as soon
Yeah,
as he gets by him, though, I mean, when
yeah,
you give these top players that kind of time and space, it's not going to go well. I don't care. I mean, Del Bianco's great, but he can only do so much. But here you see the D that we were talking about. They always, every time in the transition, even on a couple of Simpsons goals, you see they get down there. At one point, he tries to shoot through two of them. At one point, he ends up using the screen. But there's four Vegas guys every
yeah,
time down there. They really, focused on making sure that that transition, which is such a huge
yeah,
part. But like here's Jesse King, and like he carries this ball all the way around and does not really like Vegas does such a great job of covering everybody though. I mean, there's nobody open, so he gets all the way around, gets in there, gets himself a nice shot, and Kells, you see him.
yeah,
Wow, it was. We talk so often about how goaltending is such a huge part of this league, and usually that goes to your advantage, and that's where right
yeah.
there. Yeah, I mean, you see Delbs do what he does, and you're only going to stop so many of them. Simpson gets flying down the floor.
Yeah, and like we said, Kells was very studied under Delves, so he knew how a lot of these Calgary guys play.
Yeah, like you see right there, Kells dives across and gets a save, and that's one thing that
Yeah,
Delbs is really good about is that side-to-side movement. Him, Hartley, there is some bigger goalies in the league that might not have that, but these guys are so athletic. It's really a newer, you know, era of the goalie. It looks like, and I don't see that changing anytime soon because, boom, just all the way over, and he makes it look easy.
well, that's the other thing is we see a lot of these younger goalies coming into the league that aren't as tall and wide as the goalies we've had in the past.
Yeah, but then right here, I mean, he that
Boom.
that they just take a play right out of Calgary's book, and you
Yeah.
see Wagner. Wow, did Wagner look good? He definitely was the player of the game. He actually got hurt twice too, but yeah, I don't know, just the way he plays D and gets up the floor on transition.
Yeah. And something else to note, Greg, that we haven't brought up yet is the defensive coordinator that Calgary had during the championships now works for Vegas.
Yeah, so that was a big thing is they talked about the and being under McCloskey, he didn't get a chance to run his system, but yet he had a chance to study under him for so
Yeah,
long. So that was maybe part of what was going on. But yeah, I mean, and you see the transition right there, but Kels comes
yeah,
up huge.
yeah. No, and that's totally something and Delbs would do as well.
Yeah,
Come up huge and block it that wide.
yeah. No, and that's the thing. Control the rebounds, getting the passes out there. Very similar playing style. But here comes Hannah again. And
Yeah.
again, hands free, time and space. Defense comes out, maybe screen him.
Oh,
Courier, yeah, on the slide. And they, yeah, so they pulled Delbs, and this really blew my mind because, but then when he explains it later, I mean, obviously he knows way more about lacrosse than me or you could ever even pretend to.
yeah. No.
But it was like, why are you pulling Delbs, man? He's so good.
Yeah, no. And knowing Mouse like I do personally, I you don't see him pull Delbs very often.
No,
No.
no, and when they did, like you said, he was back out there, and the coach said,
Yeah.
you know, during the interview, it wasn't on Delbs. He just had to get a chance to kind of slow things down a little bit, talk to the team, because as you're watching those goals, it's you got some of the best goal scorers in the league out front of the net, hands free, wide open, and you could see he is not happy. It was
Yeah, no.
and I don't even
Delbs
think it was a
is
bad
not happy.
performance on his end. The shots that they were getting were, yeah,
Yeah, no, they went long distance shots on Delbs pretty early actually.
yeah, yeah. They kind of figured how they were, you know, get the screens where you can get your hands free, and they kind of seem to have Calgary's number, even though. You know, and then you look at the third quarter though, and you still see Calgary was able to hold them to 2 goals. So I mean, it's not like they really had their number that well. Like we talked about, it's more the you know, kind of how I don't know the offense or a lack of the offense
Yeah.
essentially.
Yeah, like said, they had to shut down our transition, and that's what they did.
And
And I
here
think
they're
think it was
doing it right
also a
now.
combination. Yeah, I also think it was a combination of they had a few players who used to be on Calgary, plus the one coach, so they knew how Calgary worked going into this.
Yeah, yeah, they did. And Calgary almost seemed a little tired a couple times here. Like you see, they've got the 2-on-1, and they're just you know beating him up in the corner, and the
Yeah,
help doesn't seem to be there. The next guy in is a desert dog. And that's something
yeah,
usually Calgary is all over the floor. They're a very athletic team, super fast. And a lot of this game was a track meet, and these goalies were making
yeah.
unbelievable saves. Kel's again, I mean, you just see him. But they really took a page out of the book of Calgary and beat them in their own game.
Yeah, no, these young Vegas guys really know how to do it, and the general managers in the ownership group are like all-star athletes. So when they probably picked the coaches, they knew what they were getting into.
Oh yeah, hands down. And like you see, so on this one, they actually get 3 resets on this shot clock. With
Yeah,
Delves makes 2 incredible saves, and he just isn't able to make the third one. And then here you see the brothers combo we were talking about. You had
yeah,
Tor Reinhold, Reed Reinhold. You had Jesse and Marshall King, and awesome job. Marshall got to score his first goal. Probably, you know, pretty memorable against his brother's team. They end up beating them. They were definitely the underdogs. We've got the
yeah,
Courier brothers who, you know, Josh had a fairly good game though. I mean, he was a bright spot for your offense. He's not that guy that's going to get 6, 7 goals. He's the guy that you can count on for, you know, hat trick, 4 goals, but I don't know how much you expect one guy to do. And then the Cornwall brothers, who, as we talked about earlier, they unfortunately weren't able to make it. And I think that's a huge part of it, though, is Calgary was missing him. They were missing pace, and
yeah,
Vegas stepped up. But I mean, here you see this is what they did. And then when they even come down the floor here,
yeah.
boom, that's what
Boom.
you need every time. And that's the guy you count on. And he starts off that second quarter saying, "Let's go, boys. This is a new
Yeah,
game."
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And this,
And Jesse King has been that guy for Calgary since getting his seat, and
yeah,
I think that was well deserved.
Yeah, no, he definitely has been. And you see, like right here, just the knowledge of like even coming off the bench, and then they know, you know, Simpson's coming up there, and Simpson has such hands right now that he could be an offensive player on so many teams. I think the real problem is he's so good at defense you don't dare take him out. But like we just talked about, Jesse King being the leader, sprints out the floor, gets the ball. They start it
Yeah,
up. Boom. He hits Simpson, and you just see
yeah,
Simpson steps over. And that's one of the things with those super athletic fast goalies. He jumps past. He can't get in position. Simpson showing his
yeah,
years of experience and makes it look easy. But here, look at
yeah,
Delbs, the
yeah.
first save, but then nobody touches him out front. That he's able to pick up the rebound in front of the net, Phillips does, and nobody gets a stick on him until the goal goes in. That's not
Yeah.
something that normally happens with Calgary. They usually clear the front of that crease very well.
Hmm.
A lot of physicality.
Yeah, no, a lot of physicality. Totally.
Yeah, and there you see Delbs again coming up big. There was a lot of that. But the offense in the second quarter, they looked good, but it was all that ball movement and that's the only way you're going to beat these top flight goalies. But I mean, you see King there with the one-handed
Yeah.
pass doing crazy stuff. And every time they got it, that's what it was. Is the lightning fast quick stick was the only way to beat these two unless you had a breakaway, it seemed like.
Yeah, no, and that's what the key I saw was to getting past these two goalies is you got to go side to side as fast as possible, then shoot.
Yeah, I mean that ball was barely in King's stick for a second, if that.
Yeah,
And what a dunk.
yeah,
That was
boom.
again just phenomenal ball movement and really like when you watch them play in the second quarter, that's what you Calgary just, they weren't able to sustain that offensive pace, missing their couple of big guys, but just wow, can they move the ball when they are on fire? Does it look good?
Yeah, when they're on fire and like we said, a few key guys were out of the roster, but
Yeah.
when Calgary's on fire, they're on fire.
Well, and that's like Dixon. He did not have, the best game, and they hit a lot of pipes. You saw it kind of was a trend. A lot of like the ball just didn't seem to want to bounce their way, and sometimes you'll have those games, and it's not necessarily like I said. There's a lot of bright spots as far as Calgary's defense able to hold Vegas to 2 goals, and then when you look at what they did in the second quarter, they played really well, and even in the fourth quarter, the defense played, you know, very good. 2 goals. It's just they need to get that offense.
Yeah, no, totally.
Oh boy, we started talking. Now I lost track of where we were. So we're looking. So on the replay here, I mean, you see them working the ball around the top on the power play, and
Yeah,
that it was a holding the stick call, I remember, and just boom,
yeah,
lightning fast. There's nothing Delbs is going to do about that. He has to step out, and you see him step away from the post, and they made him do that 3 or 4 times. From completely cutting off the guy on the corner, the Calgary just wasn't able to kind of get the stick in the passing lane. And you see there, Delbs, he's just trying to launch the ball down the field, but every time Vegas is flying down and shoring that they don't, you know, get it. And then when they finally do, this is what happens.
yeah.
I mean,
Boom.
Kels comes up amazing, and then here you see some of the rough stuff. They get a little, as Bob Leary likes to say, he gave him the business.
Yeah, no, it was definitely a crazy night for sure. With Vegas very much earning their win.
I know. And then the penalty shot. So did you understand why they called the penalty shot?
No, not necessarily.
Right, because so it took me a couple times. So I watched the game and then I
Yeah.
clipped the highlights. And when I was clipping the highlights again the second time, I finally figured it out. So what it was on that one where you just saw the save, they left the box early. So on the transition
Ah,
right before this, so this little spot right here.
yeah.
So on this transition, was it this one or I might have went back? Yeah, I went back too far. Here we go. So you see Delbs on the transition. So what it was they left the box too early, so it was too many men. But
Mm,
because they left early, and that's what they say, stop this goal because see that ref's hand went up because if he
yeah,
didn't, it was essentially they did it, and because there was a threat of an imminent goal stopping it, That's why they called the penalty shot. Unfortunately for King and Calgary, it didn't quite work out. Kells is able to hold on to the pipe, and
yeah,
he drops that leg down, slams it shut. But King, yeah, he still he needs to some days, be that guy to step up and get 3 or 4 goals instead of a couple goals. But I don't know, with all the other responsibility and the transition and the way they play, it's kind of hard. I don't know, to get the offense involved so much.
yeah. No, it was a hard night indeed, and these guys got some training to do in the bye week for sure.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely you don't want to always go in on a down note, but they had a lot of bright spots as far as Delp still looked very good. Yes, like I said, there was maybe a couple of those long shots, but there was a lot of that where just the ball gets missed by Calgary, and I tell you what, he absolutely was the difference in this game. That Wagner, he was
Yeah,
so on point, and he did to Calgary what Calgary tries to do to everybody else.
yeah. No, totally.
Then they're talking about Curse gets stitches. How tough are these guys? So they got one guy who goes out, gets
Right?
stitches, comes back on in the middle of it, and you're like, what is the matter with you guys?
Yeah, no, like you said, one guy goes up off for a few minutes, gets stitches, and he's back in.
Yeah, just like that. They're like, oh, okay, he's good.
Yeah,
All right, so now we're back up. Yeah, the stitches. So Van Scheppen actually played for Siena. That's your the rookie for you guys, isn't it, I believe?
yeah, I believe so. Actually, yeah.
The announcer said he played in Siena. That's 40 minutes down the road for me.
Oh wow, crazy.
Yeah, it was just one of those weird things when he said it. I was like, "Hey, God, that's their rookie," and he played at Siena, so that's right up. Yeah, it's 40 minutes down the street for me. I know. I actually know a couple of the guys that are coaching there. They
Nice.
play for one of the men's league teams that I film. But yeah, Courier absolutely on point for them, but it just I don't know wasn't enough for the rest of it. And you see here Vegas working the ball around and just kind of kills out the rest of the that quarter. And then now it really was on, you know, going into that fourth quarter, you really needed what they started with, which was Josh Courier comes out, gets
Yeah,
that first goal, but then as soon as they allowed Vancouver, or not Vancouver, I keep wanting to call them Vancouver. As soon as they allowed Las Vegas to get the next two, it kind of deflated the momentum.
yeah, no, and like we see there, Vegas was ready for them for sure.
Yeah, no, they definitely had the game plan here, and this is yeah, I mean Courier steps in and just Kells can't quite get over fast enough. And again, it went down to ball movement, and it just seemed like the passes weren't quite as crisp with these guys tonight, but that entire transition, they always made sure guys were running down the floor and they were there to beat them every time. But I mean, right there, beautiful behind the back diving play, and they just Kells was on point. This really was a goalie and defensive showcase. But again, you see they pick up the rebound and Phillips buries it. You can't give
Yeah,
these guys the rebound out front with nobody on their hands. If they have all kinds of time, you can only expect Elves to make so many of those saves.
yeah, no, exactly. There's only so many of those saves that Delves can make.
Yeah, and like right there again, you see he's wide open out front. The just a little miscommunication with the defense. They struggle. There you see Delbs not
Yeah,
happy, not even a little bit happy.
yeah,
And then right there, I mean they get all their best players out of the floor with enough time left in theory to be able to get a goal and then come back quick. So you had, 20 seconds left and they hit the pipe twice in a row. And then Kells gets it out to Wagner, who this time, and props to Wagner. He runs around. He doesn't try to take the shot, to try to boost his stats. And that actually, I think, would have been a hat trick for Wagner. So instead of
Yeah.
doing that, he sacrifices for the team, runs around with the ball, gets his butt kicked by two Calgary players, and there you got Kells and Wagner, and then pick one of the offensive guys from Las Vegas to give it to because that was the way I saw the game, anyways.
Yeah, and I'm actually jealous of Vegas because I don't know if you heard this, Greg, but during their next home game, they're giving out jerseys to the first 4,000 fans.
The first 4,000 fans get a jersey. Man,
Yeah,
I wish
and it actually has Gretzky's name and number on the
I
back.
did actually see those. They are.
Yeah,
I want one so bad. I
same.
wish I had enough money to just buy all the jerseys. That would make life better. But
Right?
I mean, when we look at this Desert Dogs team, I mean they have they get goals from a bunch of guys, but very similar in the way that Calgary does. You get some D transition guys, and then you get a couple goals out of your offensive guys as far as like they've got Greer. You guys didn't have pace, but you have Courier. You got King.
Yeah.
You've definitely got some of the yes. Oh, Josh is in the chat, and he's yes. Kels has played very well this year for the expansion team, and yes, Van Scheppen we were hoping was going to be a Firewolf because he's from Siena, which is they it's in the same town where the Firewolves are, and
Yeah.
unfortunately they didn't quite pick him up. But anyway, so back to Jack Canna looked great. I mean, and what I think is so impressive though is like he took 4 shots, 2 goals. They talked
Wow.
about they talked about Wagner, who Wagner has shooting on goal 100% of the time and has a 60% goal shooting percentage right now. Like that is insane.
Yeah, that is very crazy
Yeah, for
for
a
sure.
defensive guy. It's like, what are you
Yeah.
doing? But and like that Phillips, so you see like Tor Ridehold and Josh Courier are very similar, or Zach Courier, I'm sorry, very similar with the defense, and they're getting the loose balls. But what I think the biggest difference was, so you had John Phillips, he offensive player for Vegas,
Yeah.
so many offensive rebounds, and that's something that usually Calgary is very responsible for. They don't give you a lot of second shots. That's part of what Delbs does really well. He controls the rebounds, and he's fast enough and he's athletic enough that usually Calgary is so on the guys in the crease that he can kind of pop out, steal the ball, and then get a nice pass going to break somebody out. And I don't know if it was they seemed a little flat on defense as far as that, or it just maybe Vegas was so prepared for him physically, but that was my biggest point of the game, I believe.
Yeah, no, and that was definitely a crazy night, and it'll be interesting to see if Vegas can pull it off this weekend again against San Diego.
Yeah, I can't wait. So, and the one thing I find most impressive though, really, so when you look at it, they they had 41 shots, which might sound like a lot of shots, but it I don't they didn't seem to have the feel for it in their hands quite as much as Vegas did, as far as like they were just lightning quick and like the ball kind of bounced out of Calgary's stick, the tight sticks a little bit, and I don't know. Like you said, hopefully they can bounce back in Colorado. It's a tough test for them though because Colorado has really been. They're in a tough spot. They're in a very tough spot. Whereas if unless Colorado starts winning quickly, they're going to find themselves out of the West really fast.
Yeah, and that's the thing is Colorado is not doing so well right now considering they're reigning champs.
No, and I mean when you look at the goals for, I mean Dylan Ward, they've given up 120 goals almost, so their goals against isn't great. But I mean you look at the goals for, and that's what I'm talking about. You really
Yeah,
that is what is with Zed Williams and Eli McLaughlin and the rest of the talent that they have on that Colorado team. You would expect more than the 98 goals. And I think that's a bigger problem than most people are assuming and just kind of saying, well, Dylan Ward and the defense are having some issues and da 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 da. It's like, yeah, but if you can't get I mean, we just saw it with your team. If you can't
yeah,
get the offense and the Firewolves, there is
yeah,
no way you're going to win a game with 4 goals.
yeah. No, and
Four
that's a
to
big part of
20?
it is they gotta you gotta score too
Yeah.
because it was Gretzky that said you miss 99% of shots you don't take.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one of my favorite Gretzky quotes. I do love that one. But I mean,
Yeah,
the West is really shaking out to be pretty interesting, whereas the East, I mean, really the only thing in the East is we're fighting for that fourth spot between Halifax, Philadelphia, and I don't even know if you can consider the rest of them really in there because Albany has not proven in the last couple games that they're going to be capable of scoring enough goals to get up there. And New York runs into the same problem, except for New York just doesn't seem to be able to win a lot of those 1-2 goal games. They've been in a ton of them. And same with Georgia. Is those 1-2 goal games that are super important and I don't know, they just don't seem to have it as Buffalo and Rochester and Toronto run away with 8 wins. I mean, the next closest you've got
yeah.
Halifax with 5.
Well, yeah, and I'm just looking at this because technically, if you're looking at just the win losses, your top three teams in the East are tied.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no, they're tied. So we have three first place teams and then a very steep drop off on the East right now is what we have.
Yeah, yeah, I'm looking at it, and that's exactly what you have. Buffalo, Rochester, and Toronto are just dominating out east.
Yeah, no, they're absolutely owning it, and I think Toronto. So they had a pretty quiet start. They didn't play great, and but when you look at Toronto with that 140 goals for and only 91 goals against, I mean they're dominating the other two teams up there.
Yeah, no, it is crazy for sure.
Although they did have a 22 goal game against the New York Riptide that may have swung the scales slightly, kind of skewed that
Oh
goals
yeah, I
for.
think I watched a little bit of that game.
Yeah.
That was nuts. I think they beat like the all-time high score for
Oh
the
yeah.
NLL too.
Oh yeah, no, they set the record on that one. They 100% set the record on that one.
Yeah,
It was bad New York, but I tell you, then New York came back all fired up and decided to beat our Firewolves the next week. So I'm not going to say too much about that. But
yeah,
this is a huge week for Buffalo is playing Halifax. If Halifax, I mean, right now, you had Buffalo win in overtime against the Philadelphia Wings. So the Wings, who started very very slow, since they've got Mitch Jones and a couple other pieces on that offense. They're really starting to gel. You're seeing Resetaris kind of starting to look like Joe Resetaris again, getting some
mhm,
goals. I don't think Halifax is. I've got to pick Buffalo just because they're Buffalo, but I honestly, if
mhm.
Halifax can do what Halifax does, which is really get inside Buffalo, because Buffalo is a super emotional team. Just like,
Yeah,
they will take a lot of penalties, but they have so much firepower that they can make up for a lot of their shenanigans. And that's one thing that Halifax can do is they can get under your skin. I mean, look at they had Hartley trying to fight the Halifax guys. Halifax defense is tenacious. Tarafinko, Tyson Bell, Jake Withers, they are
yeah.
ferocious. They will just pester and beat you. And that I could see giving a chance to Buffalo, but I still think Buffalo's going to pull that one out. I've got to pick the Wings over New York, but I don't know. You got any thoughts on these two East Coast games off the bat?
Honestly, I want to see Halifax with Jake Withers. Hold on to that fourth place spot because Jake, he's one of the top face-off guys in the NLL to watch out for, and he is just a beast,
Yeah,
especially on the face-offs.
he is. So Josh asked in the comments, what's more surprising this season, Colorado or Rochester? I'm going to have to
Ooh,
say Colorado because so Rochester didn't completely surprise me just because so many of those guys have played together and Connor Fields adding him to that team. So Rochester was kind of building towards it last year. You saw it. And then with Hartley's play, I think it's way more surprising to me that Dylan Ward and Zed Williams have had the season that they've had so far at the start of the year.
yeah, no. From my knowledge, I would probably have to go with Colorado too because knowing who they have, they shouldn't be that low in the standings.
No, no, it should definitely. And like I said, they did this last year too. They took off the first half of the season, came back and dominated in the second half, and that's when it matters.
Yeah, no, and we're just getting into that second half. So if teams want to grind it out and make playoffs, it's do or die now.
That's the thing is it's not too late for any of them. Although some of our New York teams, if we look down here, Georgia, good luck. Albany, New York, good luck. Philly,
Yeah,
you got a chance to get yourself in, but Halifax, as long as
yeah,
they don't tank the year. But Halifax, they started out hot last year and tanked. So this outdoor game, Vegas, San Diego,
yeah.
what,
It's gonna be a matchup for the West for sure.
yeah, what are you thinking we're going to see here? So one thing I'm predicting is San Diego has had some very questionable goalie play. And
Yeah,
right now, the way Vegas is playing and that momentum, the way those guys got to feel right now after beating Calgary, who beat San Diego, and essentially, if you really watched the first Calgary San Diego game, really they only lost like a quarter and a half, and then they won the rest of the game. So
yeah,
they Vegas has got to be feeling pretty good.
yeah. No, Vegas is probably feeling really good because all the pieces are fitting together, and if they manage to beat San Diego, it's gonna reassure their confidence as we can beat the top two teams in the league right now, in
Yeah.
the West right now.
Oh yeah. Yeah. There's no. Yeah. It's gonna be
Yeah,
crazy. That's for sure. But I honestly, I'm gonna say Vegas. I'm gonna say Vegas wins that by 2 goals. I'm gonna say it's gonna be a very low scoring game. I think they. I think one thing that Colorado, or not Colorado, I'm sorry. One thing that Calgary does really well is they shut down the that San Diego offense. And after watching the way Vegas has been playing defensively, I think this is going to be a test to find out if Vegas is legit or if maybe Calgary was missing a couple guys. We've all seen that, the Firewolves offense. I love the Firewolves, but they struggle
yeah,
offensively, man. They have some
yeah,
very, very tough offensive nights. Even them, like their defense still like in those games, they're getting beat pretty bad. Although I can't say nothing about that Georgia game because 20 you gave up 20 goals and you only scored 4. There was no real bright sides there, maybe. Not at least
yeah.
that I was able to watch. I had to I stopped watching part of that game. I couldn't take it anymore. But Rochester Toronto, I honestly think is going to be the game of the week. I know, you the West Coast, that's way more to you. I think this Rochester Toronto game is going to be big time.
Yeah, I know. And going back to Vegas against San Diego, I actually told Curtis on one of his posts that I would be cheering for him, but it's funny because Vegas is one of my two US teams too. So because I'm very much an expansion draft jumper.
Yeah, I can't blame you though. It's always exciting, and you always root for the new team because they literally. So you've got
Yeah,
some of these teams that have been building for a while. Like Jesse King's been with Calgary for years. Like that's a different mentality
yeah,
that gets established with the coach and the players. And Del Bianco's gone up through. Like it's just a totally different feel. That all of a sudden we're going to take these 20 guys, shove them together, and show us what you got.
yeah. And Vegas is doing well with that formula. Like I said earlier, they've got an amazing ownership group of all-star athletes. I don't know if you know who all it is, Greg, but
I
they're
know you've
just
got Gretzky's a
crazy.
part of it. That's all I need to know.
Gretzky, we got Steve Nash, we got Gretzky's son-in-law, which is a pro golfer.
So
It's just crazy ownership group
just
for
people who
sure.
know how to
Yeah,
win.
yeah, no, and they're all like all-star athletes, respectively in their sports.
Yeah, and then the Georgia Albany game this week. I'm really hoping Albany can. I'm going to be there. It's a home game for us. I'm really hoping Albany plays better, obviously, but I see them coming back, and they need they need this win if they want to stay in it. I don't see them being able to drop teams to two games to a team that has been winless all year and being able to stick with it.
Yeah, the other West game I want to really see is Vancouver get a few more wins.
Yeah.
Like
So
my BC team is sitting 2-9 right now.
but I tell you, Vancouver. So Vancouver started out similar to the way Vegas started out. Is
Yeah,
it was a very rough start, and it. I don't know. Now that Sean Evans has been there, and the way like Mitch Jones and some of these guys have been playing, has absolutely, you know, It's been great. Sean Evans has brought a mentality and a pride back to that team that
Yeah,
is really needed. And now there's you see them playing with it though. They've got the emotion. They're out there getting after
yeah,
it. It's much better.
yeah, yeah, for sure. And Vancouver, it's a lot of young guys, just like Vegas, who need to build that team chemistry. And unfortunately for Vancouver, Vegas just happens to do it a little bit better right now.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that pretty much sums that up as yeah, Vegas happens to do it a lot better. So, yeah, I don't know much about another thing in the comments from Josh, our thoughts on Jake Fox from Panther City. I don't know much about him. Um, he played Johns Hopkins and he was 19th overall, so he definitely has the talent, and people believe he has the talent. Maybe he's the spark they need for this to get going. I mean, I thought they had it because the week before we played and we played really well. We did lose to Vegas, but there was a lot of bright spots coming out of the offense because Vegas's defense is pretty good, but Albany actually had a very like decent showing in that game. I'm thinking they just need to they're trying to shuffle some things up, maybe get some guys playing differently. I don't know if that's it or if maybe they just need to find out a way to make their field players more comfortable. I definitely don't see it hurting. I think it's more of a hey guys, we need to start changing, kind of like when you pull your goalie. You're just trying to fire him up. It's not so much a knock on your goalie, but I don't know. It's got to be better than what we've had for goal wise. It's been and we didn't have the new face-off guy for the last game. Yes, but the bigger problem in those games has really been the offensive rebounds. I believe the Albany's defense gets the rebounds, and Albany's offense doesn't ever seem to come up with very many. They give up very fast. They run right off the floor immediately. They and I understand why they do it because they want to get their defense out and they're a big defensive transition and like you saw Vegas and it worked really well against a team like Calgary where when you get back quick, but there you got to find that balance, of how do we stay in to get those extra offensive possessions with our offensive guys on the floor versus how we're looking at it as far as, we need to get back on defense versus no, we need to get some goals. We need to start getting a couple extra shots on some of these possessions, tire their defense out and move it around a little bit. Tucci did play great though the game before, and Tucci is the new faceoff guy, and I am a huge fan of him. But
nice.
yeah, moving on to the next game, we got another West Coast game with Saskatchewan taking on the Panther City team.
City, yeah,
And
which is my other U.S. team.
well, you are a sucker for expansion teams, and they are both on the west
Yeah.
side of our country. But so one thing
Yeah,
I think though is really when you're looking at this, when you look at that west though, they're right there. And Saskatchewan's problem has definitely been a consistency problem. Their uh
yeah,
their defense has been pretty good. Obviously, last game against Vancouver, you kind of wonder what the heck happened, guys. But sometimes you're going to have that with you get a cold goalie that's what happens. Bouquet has played phenomenal in spots, but giving up 16. All right, he didn't give up all 16, but it's it's what they're kind of working with. And then Toronto Philly, this could be a very sneaky game for Toronto though because they are playing Rochester on Saturday and then on Monday they're playing Philadelphia. Philly
well,
played very tough. Yeah, we've got the rare Monday game coming up. But Philly played very tough against Buffalo all the way through. They came out and they were on a tear. And if they can keep their foot, and now you're talking a Toronto team that's a little bit tired because they just played
yeah,
against, you know, Rochester. And you're not talking that they're going against a team that they can take moments off. I mean, Rochester is all fire. If their defense is on point, they're beating you up pretty good. And Toronto, one of the big things that Toronto does is they got a huge transition game. And that's what I think the difference is going to be between that game. And Rochester's got a transition game, but Rochester's more of a, hey, we've got our 5 offensive guys and we'll get them out there and they play really good. Hogarth, all their Connor Fields, you've got that whole group up front that is really they're solid players, and but whereas Toronto, they have a bunch of transition guys. I mean, Challen Rogers, um, Marshall, their whole transition is different, and that's why Buffalo and Toronto, I believe, are going to be your top two teams out of the East, and I think that's what's going to set them
Yeah.
apart from Rochester. I could be wrong, but it's also that's Albany's problem is their offense. They've got a good transition game, but they don't get enough offensive goals. You can always count on Albany's transition to get you 3 or 4 goals, just like the last game with Calgary. Yes, it was a bad offensive game. They still had 9 goals.
Yeah, exactly.
It's I mean,
And
so they still yeah, I mean, but the problem with that is you need those offensive guys sometimes, when you look at the Roughnecks, Josh Courier gets that and he's shooting 33%, but like Hayden Dixon, 7 shots, doesn't
yeah,
get a goal. He wasn't able to finish it. He wasn't able to kind of set guys up, and he's a guy on that Calgary team that he's a big part of it. Jesse King
yeah, no,
had the two
totally.
goals, but like nobody, Tanner Cook, like he had a goal, which he'd been so hot, coming into this, you were kind of expecting a little bit more out of Cook, maybe that you can't always expect, but that's what you need, especially when Pace is out and Cornwall's not there, and you've got these guys who are reliably getting multiple goals for your team a game, and it's a tough spot to be in.
Yeah, and it's funny because there's actually a contest that Calgary's having on their Twitter and Instagram where I entered it for a chance to get a signed jersey. So fingers crossed. I need one of those white jerseys, Greg.
I I hear you're doing pretty good on as far as that stuff goes. With luck, though, I mean, you just got a head. You got it all dyed up PlayStation style, looking fly.
Yeah, I'm actually hoping to get a shaft for my head soon. So
Yeah,
I got because I want a blue like a dark blue like shaft to go with the color scheme type thing. So
that'll look good. That is definitely going to be very
yeah,
fresh looking. But yeah, I had
a
to take a
nice early birthday present for myself would be winning that contest
would be
though.
winning the contest. All right, if anybody's watching, hook that one up with a white jersey. Uh,
Yeah,
but
Roughnecks jersey.
that's right, a white Roughnecks jersey. So when you look here, though, I mean, it's one quarter really as Vancouver
Yeah,
stole it. I mean, and they consistently they did great in the third quarter too, but it just was not what what I was expecting out of Saskatchewan. Saskatchewan's defense and Bouquet have been a huge underrated part of this team, and Keegan Ball, wow, did he just go off?
yeah,
I mean, he had 8 assists. How many goals? I gotta get down to the amount of that. But I mean, that's what you're seeing. Like Chase Scanlon's on the board now. They they played they played great, really. I mean, I don't know. Maybe you can't count out Vancouver. Maybe Vancouver's gonna make a run at it.
yeah. No, and yeah, Vancouver is very much on the grind now. Like the following week, after they play Vegas.
Yeah. But here's the thing. So like when you look at the goalies for SAS, you kind of get the story of what happened.
Yeah,
17 saves, 10 goals. So on 27 shots, you let in 10 goals. That is not the Alex Bouquet that that you're used to seeing. And then
yeah,
when they put Eric Penny in, it-
yeah,
14 saves, 6 goals against. That's not much better.
yeah,
It's yeah, this game is all about goalies. I am
yeah.
100% convinced that unless you have a goalie who's playing out of his mind or is just on fire, but you need a Matty Vince, a Del Bianco. You need somebody
Mhm.
who's going to set you apart. Dougie was that guy in Albany. He's been that guy. He's
Yeah,
he's having some tough spots, but I mean, Getty didn't even look good, and part of that is too the defense. Just it was not. I don't know what happened that last game. It just was not. They're not playing the same way. They've had some hot and cold games. It's been very interesting. But like I said, when you look at Saskatchewan, their offense still played decent. They need some of the guys like Church with 4 assists. Like
Mhm.
that's a bad game for Church because when you look at the fact that he took almost 20 shots on goal and he didn't score a goal, you're like, okay, yeah, you had 4 assists, but you took 20 shots and didn't put one of them in there. That's not good. Either kind of. I mean, obviously, don't listen to me, but you would think either stop shooting so much or figure something else out. But yeah, that's whew, boy. I mean, is that it? Maybe Aaron Bold is just playing that good now?
Yeah, no, and I actually am going to be talking to Aaron Bold pretty soon, actually. So stay
Really?
tuned for that.
I mean,
Yeah,
when you
I
look at
got
it
an
though, he
interview
had
with him coming up.
51 saves.
Yeah, no, and Bold is that he's the goalkeeper that Vancouver needs.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes, 100%. Since they brought, they've got Bold. You've got Chase Scanlon. He's got a couple goals now. He's their younger, one of their young up and coming guys. He's gonna be good. He's got the talent. He'll get there. He's
yeah,
just got to start having fun and playing lacrosse, and that's the kind of stuff that you get out of having a leader like Sean Evans out there.
yeah,
Sean, he gets the hat trick, but even more than the hat trick is the emotion he brings to the team, the fire and the spark that was missing. I don't know. When you watched Vegas's first game, they kind of looked like they were just up showing, going through the motions.
yeah. No, and Vegas is very much they're an expansion team, so it's a lot of see. This is what we can do now.
Yeah, yeah, they're in a much different situation. Like I said, I'm a huge fan of Sean Evans, and watching
Yeah,
him up and what he's doing now, I'm an even bigger fan of him because you're really starting to see that mentality going up there. And yeah, Delmonico, it or not Delmonico. I'm sorry, Kyle Killen, like he's another guy that just he shot 50%. Like he was just having some of their guys were on fire. Charlotte Beatties, I don't know. I think this Vegas team could they could potentially upset some of the Western balance a little bit. I don't know if
yeah.
it's
No, Vegas could definitely shake things up in the Western balance for
well,
sure.
and especially when you look at it though. So Colorado right now only has 3 more wins. That's not a
Yeah,
lot of ground to make up. It's not like you're talking, Georgia in the East who only has 1 win now, and they got to try to catch 7 wins up to even get into third place. I mean,
yeah,
granted, the fourth place isn't so bad, but we literally have a three-way tie for first, which is not going to last for, you know, this
yeah,
weekend will be the end of it because you've got two of the teams playing against each other
yeah. Exactly.
with Buffalo
So
playing Halifax. So this is going to be a huge weekend for the East. A lot of great lacrosse. I mean, everywhere is going to be great lacrosse, but this is a huge. You've got
yeah,
all the, you know, we're starting to find out who's who and what's what and where everybody's stacking up.
yeah, exactly.
Oh my goodness, we've been doing this for an hour and a half. Or not an hour and a half, an hour and 3 minutes, which means we've actually been doing this for an hour and a half because we start like 20
Yeah,
minutes, half hour beforehand.
yeah,
All right, so thank you very much, everybody, for tuning in. We really appreciate it. And Owen, give us a shout out of your channel for anybody because you have a bunch of interviews coming up. One with Aaron Bold you just told us about, and some
yes,
others that we spoke about.
yeah. So Tech-lax, I'll get to some technology videos eventually. I figure,
Links in the
but
description. We actually do have
yeah,
one technology video that you can almost load up here pretty soon as you approve it.
yeah. I just gotta look at it still. Guilty as charged, Greg.
That's
But
awesome.
yeah, my link is in the description. Tech-lax is on Instagram, Facebook, and of course here on YouTube. All I think Greg got all the links here. Yes, he did. Perfect.
We're getting better. I'm getting better at nailing the descriptions and the links, and Owen's getting
Yeah.
better because he's got more interviews. He's going to catch up to me pretty soon with all the interviews you got going on. So, uh, you also interview Junior A players. Are they those are hockey players, or are they right?
They're lacrosse players as well.
Oh, so it's a junior lacrosse program.
Yeah.
Aha.
So in Calgary here we have I've interviewed a few guys from the RMLL, which is Rocky Mountain Lacrosse League.
So
Oh,
basically,
great.
our future all stars.
Yeah, and giving them some airtime. And plus, I've done a couple Vancouver Warriors, and I've done there's some other amazing ones to come up,
And
come out
anybody who
soon.
hasn't seen him, definitely check him out because he usually sends me the questions ahead of time, and I love them. I love the way you do it. I love the quick fire questions. I love how you ask a good mix of lacrosse, and then it's like, hey, where would you go on vacation? You know, you
Yeah.
going to Disneyland or you like the yeah. I absolutely love the way everybody should definitely check out Owen's videos. And thank you all so much. We're gonna try to shoot for Monday next week, but we'll probably end up on
Cool.
Tuesday again because Mondays haven't seemed to be lining up for us.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, anybody who doesn't know, Owen is way over in Calgary, and it's a 2 hour time difference. And usually by 10
Yeah.
o'clock, I turn into a pumpkin, so I have to go.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Thanks, everybody, so much. And Owen, we're going to do this again next week. And
Cool, cool.
everybody enjoy this week in the NLL. It's going to be a great treat. Lots of games.
Yeah, no, I'm excited.